right. I apologize in advance. I am not a professional voice actor. So, anyways, I am going to walk you through the rack management system and how I like to keep track of, networking gear and racks and whatnot. So, I want to deal with the parent site we set up originally. So, we will go with Master Lab. So, the first thing you want in any nice little data center is going to be your rack. So what we would do is you go down to device management and rack profiles. This was built so you can just, you can build a profile of a rack, assign it a name, number, whatever you identify it as in your area. So like most common ones are rack, row, and position, if I remember right. So we will go to add a rack. If there was another rack built and you wanted to clone the profiles from that, I'll show you how to do that. Kind of saves you about 5 seconds. So let's call this rack, we'll go with data center room 109. And I'm just making up stuff. The names don't matter and the points don't do much. All right, we'll call it that. You can have a few choices here. You can specify your total rack units. You can specify the usable, whether it's the same or not. We're going to random depth in millimeters. I'm just picking one. All right. You can set your parent site ID, which will automatically give you the child locations. So we will pick, actually, our master lab. And let's go with room 109. Right. Main building 2. Right. Main building 1, room 109. I believe that's the one I'm looking for. Oh, no. So that's not actually. 109 is the room, and this will fill it out. You can label this whatever. I'm picking A. And just for dash sake, I'm going to put a dash right there. And generally remember this if you want to clone it. You can put your notes here, whatever. Hit save. Now we have a nice usable rack. So let's just say I want to add one or two more. I'm going to clone the preferences off of that guy. And place it in the site that I want. So 109. Change the name. DC room 19 A002. These have to be unique, obviously. We'll label this row A. And I will do one more just for spite. DC, oops. Clone this guy. Call this 3. It's going to go into B. Row B. And to be fair, these don't mean anything other than it will label it in the map eventually. You'll see when we get there. Okay. Let's save that. All right. Now, there are two pieces of gear that can be tracked by this. It's going to be the stuff that I can see, so interactive stuff like network, routers, switches, you name it, anything that can be on the network. You can track other items like patch panels, whatever, but you have to put those in on your own. So, like, say if I was walking through a data center and I had a couple patch panels and I labeled them, however, those you have to put in manually. So that's done in the same spot. We'll go to device management. and you can go to Unmanaged Device Profiles. So I picked a few that I already populated just for giggles. Um, we're going to call this a 24 port DWDM patch. You can do whatever you want. This is pretty much open to interpretation. You don't have to fill this out. This will actually get filled out on its own in the future. Um, you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it as here, serial number, vendor, whatever. This photo section, I'm actually working to get the bugs out of, but what you could do is get a nice little photo of the front of the device. And when it shows up in the rack layout, it'll show the picture of that device instead of just arbitrary text. Yeah, or you can upload a photo. So you can point it to a URL or upload a photo that'll live on the server. So if you wanted to make a profile, let's just say I have a Cisco 9300 and I only want it to, I want to put a picture that is seen, that can be used by any device that shows up as that. You can actually create a profile and just name it whatever. So, you know, like Cisco 9300 front panel. I'm going to call it this because this doesn't matter. This has to be unique. Or I'm sorry, the device name is unique. The profile name can be anything. So if I was to pick up a URL, what you would do is just assume I put a URL in here. You could say map this photo to a device type. So what you would do is look in the devices tab, find out what kind of device this is. So if you were to see, go into devices, see what this server has found, and let's look up the lab box, for example. And you would see that, say, this would be a 30 or 24 port UX switch. All you do is you put that here, and that's it. You say use profile type, and what happens now is any device that you stick in a rack that is this device type, it will end up using this picture as something it can render the image of. Right now I'm working the bugs out of that because it likes to stretch or contract the picture too much, but we'll see. So let's say we have this configured and we built these two. The next thing we would do is we would go to our devices, and you have two ways to do this. If you go to set device rack placement, you can specifically find your device manually. Oops. This searches what's here. This searches live on the server. All right. So what you do is you would pick one, and I'll add one and drop the other later, just to show you. So this is view. This is edit. So let's say I want to select a rack. If I don't want to put this all in on my own, you would put your rack here. And because I can't remember what I named the rack, DC. Okay. All right. That would fill this out. You pick a rack position. So let's just say I put this in the 10 RU spot. The RU size is the size of the box. I'm just going to pick one, whether it's front or rear facing, and then you can pick out whatever notes you want to put in here. This custom fields here is left for future use. I haven't done much with it yet. Eventually, this may be for auto provisioning stuff based on rack locations. Who knows? I haven't gotten that far. I left it as an option. Failed to fetch. So bug one, huh? What did that do? We'll skip that. No, we'll look at that later. So let's see how this works. So we go to Rack Display Editor. Oh, that's why it didn't work. Sorry, the timeout gets me every now and then. Let's try it again. This is where you get to enjoy live testing. So if we go back to set device and we go back to lab, let's go put this one here. Oops, wrong button. By the way the server is coded, only specific people with what the appropriate permissions can alter and delete whatever. Or you can just give them view so they can't hurt anything. The other thing too, by the way, is if you deleted these, you can easily put them back. I thought this was the section I added an undelete button. I don't think I pushed that change yet. Everywhere else in the server, for the most part, I have a soft delete and a hard delete. So you can generally delete things, but you have to do it twice to get rid of it completely in case you hit the wrong button or somebody gets overzealous with the delete key. So you have two ways to get to the rack editor here, or you can actually go down to device management and rack display editor. Now, watch your eyes. I have both light mode, dark mode. I like them both. So if we go here and we pick our rack, so let's say we're going to edit 109, that A001, the one that we just put that switch in. We load the rack, and if we go look around RU10, that's our switch. Now, if I don't like where that switch is, and by the way, this is where that photo would show up once I get that particular bug fixed. So you can actually have a live photo of the gear you want. But until then, we're stuck with this. If you don't like it here, though, you can move it. You can delete it. And there are histories, snapshots. So everything you change has a rollback option. You can view where it was, and you can restore it. Now, let's say I want to add a device that was in here. This is my list of managed devices. Nobody likes looking through those for the most part. You can do discovered, or you can see unmanaged only, or you can see all of them. So let's just filter on discovered, and we're going to look for lab. So let's say I want to add this switch here, somewhere at the top of the rack. I want to add this switch somewhere down here. We'll go to unmanaged. We'll go toss our patch panels in. So say I want a patch panel here. This is to RUs that I set it. Also, you can edit this. So if you didn't like it or you screwed up somewhere along the lines when you put this in, go change the RU size. It will yell at you, by the way, when you have overlapping. Or if you want to put it to the rear part of the rack. So this is front face, rear face, whatever. And I want to save this. So everything here is auto-save, or you can save it, or you can undo something. You can even change labels. So how you get this particular label on the bottom of it. If you don't like the way this switch is, or you want to make it bigger for whatever, you just want to watch the world burn, you can increase that as well. And that will increase this. I'm thinking what I'm going to end up doing again is I have to tweak the RU size so it's a little better because I like having this here. So in future releases, I'm not going to make another video for this. You're going to have these RU sizes a little bigger so this fits in. Let me put that back down to 1. All right, now label size. If you're a young person, somewhere around me, actually this one's probably me lately. Can't see anything. All right, I'm going to move this to the left. So once that's done, you can save this if you're, paranoid that it hasn't saved, which is fine. I do the same thing. That's why my Control S key is worn out. Or, that's about it. Um, just make sure auto save on change is clicked. Now, let's just say we add in DC another rack. Let's edit this one. I'm just going to randomly drag some stuff here. Don't mind the labels on these boxes. They're just made up profiles because I didn't feel like powering on a bunch of stuff. And then we're going to make sure that the other one is saved just for paranoia. It's saved. How about the one we were just working on? And that's saved. Now, from here, this is where the nice part comes. What we can do is we can go into device management. And I personally like, well, let me introduce the wiring part for this. So there's another section where you can actually build yourself a floor mat, but we'll get to that. So if I go to the rack wiring review, now this is a section where I can edit this rack. I can edit the properties of the wires on the rack, for example. So if I look for the particular rack that I just put in, now you will see a couple things where status is unwired, which means I have nothing in the wiring database on these particular guys. I can even filter this out if I want to see gear that's just wired or unwired or whatever. There are instructions here. You can read these to kind of give you a quick overview of what this does. If you ever mess with the panels, this reset panel will put them back to normal. There's a bunch of options up here. Move it right, compress it, hide if you want a bigger version. You can either show it or just, like I said, hit reset. So let's just say I want to look at this particular box. You click on whatever you want to look at. This port information is derived from the device when it's discovered. So you see how I have all of these interfaces right here, gig 1 all the way through whatever. The descriptions are completely pulled from the device itself. If you hide this particular panel, you can see a brief version of the wiring database for this. If you go back, let's just look at this patch panel because I put a couple fake ports in here. You see how this is unwired. So what we'll do is we will go back to this switch. So let's just say I'm taking this switch and wiring it to this patch panel. I will take this, click on that guy. Let's just say this is gig 1 is the port I want to wire, even though it's not in use. I like this view. So if we go to gig 1 and we go to add wiring, you pick your identifiers. These need to be in the system configured already or it will not work. They will prevent you from updating anything on the website unless it's pre-programmed in. And the reason is I didn't want specific, I just don't want the wiring database on anybody to get crammed with bad data, so you can control what goes in there. If you wanted to do that, you go to custom fields, or I'm sorry, not custom fields. You go to circuit identifiers and you put what you want in here. Or you can go to custom fields. This lets you put special things that you want to track that I might not have thought of. So if you go here and add, these keys are important. So like if I do a test, and we'll call it devices, because you can also add in special things. Um, let's see, actually we'll call it something I haven't used yet. What's a good thing? Um, let's do RFC. Yeah, I'm just making stuff up, to each of their own. Now this display group is optional, but I recommend it. It's used to kind of sort how you see things. Here you can change the type of field. So you can go text, text area, number, true, false, or select. So we'll do a select because we just want to know if has it passed. Or you can even do a Boolean. I like drop down boxes, so I'm going to show you how to set that up because this is pretty easy. This kind of tells you either one per line or a JSON array. In the long run, it's going to go to an array, but this is going to convert it for you. So you do yes for your top one, no for whatever. You put whatever you want because you can actually run reports in the background. Anything this website stores, you can talk to its endpoint run by Fast API, and you can pull whatever you want. You can also have a required flag that says, hey, this needs to pass, or this needs to at least be filled out. So let's see, help task shown under the input when editing. Has this circuit been RFC tested? Save the field. Now you can see this is here. Also, if you want to change the way this looks, you can drag and drop this. By default, I set it up so it's alphabetical order for the most part. So let's refresh this. So I'm going to give it a 2TB number. It's just a number I made up. And I'm going to pick one of my own. If you don't pick one of your own, it will pick the very first available number. This is good if you want to end up reserving a bunch of wiring circuit IDs and whatnot and planning ahead of time when you're building, say, a building and you're just planning out your wiring. And we will do planned. Since I said RFC, for giggles, we're going to call this a direct internet access circuit. And unfortunately, it will go through AT&T. You can fill all this out if you want. Doesn't really matter. If you ever fill out this subnet, though, by the way, has to be a legitimate subnet or it will error out on you. And you can put a VLAN in there as well. Your endpoints are automatically filled out for the A endpoint. So it knows that you're configuring this port. And you can tell you where the rack panel is. So let's just say I want to put it to that patch panel that I have. It's an unmanaged patch panel. It will auto-complete the interfaces as well. Let's just say I'm picking 155010 because I'm lucky today. Now, we already know this is in the same rack, patch, panel, port, whatever. You can put that in here if you really want to because it's in the same rack. Your custom fields are here. So if this was a longer list, these buttons will be useful. So if I want to go down and jump to the ones that I made, so let's just say I say this passed the test. Data center patch panel, I put this in here for giggles a while ago. It doesn't really matter. for this case. I'm going to use this as just an example of how to use a custom. So I'm going to say my transport path ID. You can put whatever, you can put a circuit ID, phone number, who cares. Remember, all of these are searchable in the wiring database. So if you hit save, now this shows up. If I want to validate, if I go back to my rack and I refresh the page, we will take and find that rack again. And reset. I have my view set where it faces that. Now you'll see it's wired. So you got one wired connection here with the same 2TB number that I just did. And it's going to this guy. Whoops. I want to get rid of this real quick. So now you have this information on here. And eventually I'm going to have it where it'll auto detect the optics built into the box. So you don't even have to do that. It'll pick the device, or it'll find the optics and list it here. Right now it does pull the hardware interface off the devices that it detects anyways. So that should be okay for the most part. I just have to integrate it with this report, and you'll be able to export CSV or JSON for this particular guy. So that kind of gives you the gist of this. You can't edit this by moving these here. That's in the other page. So the next spot for this is floor map. And you can either go back to the editor and change whatever around, or you can go to floor map. This is kind of one thing that I like because I like to organize things. So, like I said, light mode, dark mode. I got to figure out some better colors if anybody has some suggestions. Now let's just say I'm going to pick my master lab. I'm going to pick the room in the building that we just set that up on. There's no closet here. So this is where you can basically arrange a floor map. So you just take from an aerial view, look down on your floor, arrange your racks where you want them to go. So let's just say I don't like them there. I'm going to move this guy over here. Let's just say row A is here and row B is here. And then autosave is on by default. Or I'm sorry, off by default. Or I can save it. You can also turn the grid off. You can make this just increases the invisible boundary of the canvas line. It shouldn't affect you too much. Let's see. I can also make this bigger by getting rid of this. And now I can see just the floor map. So if I want to add other items here, because I like to keep track of some things that don't happen to be in the unmanaged devices, it could be that it's not just something special like a UPS or a front door, for example. I'll add a floor device, and let's just say I want to put a UPS here. I'm going to call this UPS 1. You can change, the basic shapes. If you look down here, when you increase things, so like I want to make this width like 600, it'll change. Some notes here. 3 and save. That's just because I want a floor map. This has nothing to really do with networking in this portion yet. Oops. Just say I put that there, and for giggles, because my OCD, we're going to put a door. We'll label it front door. trying to orient my room. And save it. Now, grid on, grid off. This is just meant to give you kind of an overview. Let's spread this out just a little. All right, so you reset panels. You can also change the views of these. Maybe I'll have to fix this. This might be, oh, active floor maps. Yeah, I believe this is a, let's try this. Yeah, that's an erroneous error I gotta get rid of, but you get the point. So what you can do is you can see what's here. So this kind of tells you, here's your rack, um, how full it is, if you put any closet information in here, etc. This is all of those items that's in the floor plan. You can actually go through and click on one of these and go to the reviews, or you can edit them here, or you can click on them themselves just to see the rack. So this takes you back to the rack view page that we're at. And same thing, if I wanted a quick, what's up with this particular thing. And for now, I'm going to cut it here, but this gives you kind of an overview of how the wiring database integrates with how all the devices are detected on the network, and like a rack um, profile that you can build for each location that you have.